In this video, we're going to be creating the Zapier Zap that creates a ConvertKit subscriber from a Podio new lead. So first we'll disable the original tutorials add subscriber Zap. We won't be using this one, we'll be creating a new one. We'll do this by clicking the on switch and turning it off. Next we'll click Make a Zap. And then we'll use Podio as the triggering app. And then select New Action. And then save and continue. And then we'll select your Podio connection. I use this ConvertKit tutorial one. If you don't have it, you can go down to the button below and click Connect an Account. Now click Save and Continue. And then we'll select our org workspace and application and action type. I'll be selecting Struggling Investor. My workspace is SI Lead Manager Tutorial, and the application will be Properties application. And the field item will leave blank. We don't need this. And for the action type, we'll select Item Created. Now we'll continue. Now here we need to pull some samples in from Podio so we can work with that data through the rest of the Zap creation process. And we'll need to open up Podio to do that, but first we'll click on the Pull Samples button. And it gives you 3 minutes to do this. That's plenty of time. So we'll log into Podio, get into my workspace, and then add the properties. So we'll click Add Property button over here, and then enter the address. I'll use a condo complex's address, which I like to use because then I can just number and have multiple different testing items. So we're going to start out at 601. And then for this, we have to add the address field here. These are the 5 fields that we created in the previous tutorial. And then a first name. I'm just going to put some crazy name in there. It doesn't really matter. And for the email address, we're going to use something that we have access to. You can see I have the using the trick of a plus something after my Gmail in my Gmail account so I can access it. And then choose email sequence. We're just going to choose the first one, the Podio new lead. And now when you have to make sure in Zapier, if you leave any blank, that field will not come over and you won't be able to get at it. So those 5 fields are what we need for this Zap. So we fill those in, and then we'll save the property. And we'll go back to Zapier and wait for it to catch the new property lead. Alright, it's come in. So click that little down arrow next to it and check the data. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. You probably don't know what it is, but we can just check a few points like the address to make sure it's the right one. And there you have it right there, 601 Brook Hollow Drive, Whippany. And now we can click continue. So now that we've done the trigger step, the next thing we're going to add is the ConvertKit add subscriber step. So we'll do this by clicking the add a step action, then action search. Then we'll select ConvertKit. If you don't have ConvertKit listed there, you can do a search above for ConvertKit and then find it and select it. And we'll select add subscriber to form, which is the bottom one. Save and continue. We'll select our ConvertKit connection. If you don't have it, you can click on the connect an account button below there and it'll take you through the steps to connect it. It's really easy. So we're testing and it's successful. And now we'll move on and save and continue. And here we'll set up the template. So we'll select the form we want to add the lead to, or the subscriber to, and that's the Podio new lead tutorial that we set up in the previous tutorial, the original one. And if you do not have that set up already, please go back to that tutorial and you'll get a link. You'll see the link below this video, and then set that up, and then you can come back and restart here and you'll have that form. Then after that, we'll create the email. We'll add the email address. This will be the email address from the triggering item through Podio. So we search for email and make sure we select the email value, which is the full address. You'll see the email address right there. So we'll click that. And then we'll add in a first name. We can type in first for search and then select the value for that field. Now this opt-in to sequence, we'll leave that default as yes. And now we'll add the address field because we have a field for that in our ConvertKit setup. Type in address, find the formatted version of that address. And then the other thing we need to add is the item ID, which is the Podio item ID. So we know which lead created this, so we'll have to search for item. You can then search down. It's just the item ID, it's not the app item ID. And then those will be the fields we need to populate to create the new subscriber. I may have some more fields than you do, but don't worry about that. They're just included in other forms that I have, and ConvertKit keeps those forms for everything. It keeps those values and fields for all of them. Okay, we click continue, and now we can see the data that we have entered, and now we'll send it to ConvertKit to create the new subscriber. So let's go to ConvertKit, log in, and you'll see on your subscribers tab that the new test subscriber has been added. So we'll click on it and look through the values. You can see that, and there's the item ID for the Podio lead. And there's no tag at the bottom just yet. We'll add that in a couple action steps from now. So we'll add another step, and here we're going to create the date and time value that we're going to then add to our log later on. We need to do this because we want to add in a certain format that I prefer. So we'll choose the action type of formatter. If it's not down below in the built-in apps area, we can go up to the top and do a search. Enter in formatter, and select the formatter by Zapier. And then we'll choose date time, save and continue. Set the transform to format, and then the value input type will be a special key, a code that you can get from the tutorial that I have in this step. I'll drag that over here so you can see it. It's this code right here. So we cut and paste that into that input field. You see when we paste it in there, Zapier knows what it is and then converts it into the field token for the current date. And now we want to format that current date into a specific format that I like. They give you some options up top, some default options. None of those quite fit what I wanted, so I'm going to use a custom value advanced. And then this value, this format will be in the year, month, day format. So for the year we do 4 Y's, capital Y's, dash, capital M's, dash D, capital D's, 2 of them, and then a space, and then we'll put in the time. And the time will be lowercase h's, 2 of them, colon, lowercase m's, colon, lowercase s's, and then a capital A. So this will put it in the 12-hour clock format. So 11:01:01 a.m. And you'll see that later when we test this. And for the 2 time zone, we'll select the Eastern, just because I'm on the Eastern. If you're on the West Coast, use Western. And then for the final 2 fields, we'll use default, and then we'll continue. Now let's send a test, and then we can see here the format that we're going to get and add to our log field. And then the next step is we're going to pull out the tag ID from that choose email sequence option. And to do that, we'll add a step. Formatter, so we'll have to say action search. Select formatter. Then use text option here. Save and continue. Finally, we'll select the transform of extract number. So what this does is it pulls out any numbers within the text. So we'll have to select the text for this, which would be from the choose the sequence Podio field. So I'll do a search for sequence here. And then choose that option right there. Make sure we choose the text value. And that 761390 value is what will be pulled out. And you'll see that in the test. So we'll continue. And then we'll send the test to the formatter. And then you'll see the output. Now next we'll add a step to add the tag to the subscriber that we created. So we'll click ConvertKit and then add tag to subscriber. Select our ConvertKit connection. You don't need to test it, but I'll test it just to make sure we're good. Save and continue. Now I'll add the tag here, but it wants you to select a specific tag or use a custom value, which we're going to use here because we're going to provide it with the tag ID because we don't know it ahead of time. So now it'll ask you for a custom value for the tag ID. We'll choose from step 4 the output. And then finally the email address, which we'll get from step number 1. And we'll use the email address there. So we'll search for email just to find it quickly. And then just move down until we find the email value. And then that's all we need for this step. So we'll continue. And then test. So if we go back to ConvertKit and scroll down and refresh first, you can scroll down on that subscriber and see that the new tag was added. So everything's working good so far. And then finally we'll add a step for the updating of the Podio item with the log information and then also the subscriber ID. So we'll use Podio update item. Choose the Podio connection. You can use you'll use the same connection you used in the first step. Save and continue. Well, just like all other Podio action steps, we have to select the organization, the workspace, and the app. You have to do this every time. It doesn't take values from previous steps. And now here we'll have to tell it which item we're going to update. And we'll take that from step number 1. So first we have to select use custom value. And then provide it with the item ID. And that'll just be the item ID from the triggering step number 1. So I'll type in item ID and then choose that. And now because Zapier needs to provide all required fields to a form, to a Podio, that we have to re-enter in the address, which is easy. We just resupply it with the information we got from the triggering step number 1. So we'll open this up, type in address, so we can get the address, the formatted address from step number 1. Click that, and we'll scroll down. One strange thing that I've found is that even though the email field is not required, we shouldn't need to enter in the email address, that because it defaults the email type to a value, that it needs an email address or else it clears it out. So yeah, we can't get rid of this work in this email type, so that means we have to add the email in here. So we'll just type in email and resupply it with the email value we got from the trigger step. Not a big deal, just something to be aware of. And next we'll add in the ConvertKit log. This is, you can pull the code in from the tutorial right here. We can just highlight it, copy and paste. Your work's not done yet. We have to replace some of the field tokens. As you can see, they come up, the green areas, they come up with no data because the tokens for my example are not going to equal your tokens, so we have to delete them and add those back in. These first two that you see are simply just the date and time. So we'll delete that, go to the date time step number 3, select the output there, and then we'll do that again for the next no data value. And this last one is going to be your choose selected sequence value from your Podio app. So the new lead, so the new Podio lead that I'll show you right here, that value. So it's easy. We just select there, search for sequence, and then in step number 1, we'll grab the sequence value. You'll see there. Then that field's all set. And finally, we set the subscriber ID. So we can do that in step number 2. We just select subscriber ID. This is the step where we created the ConvertKit subscriber. And then now we're done. In my case, keep scrolling and hit continue. We'll get the sample data that we're going to send to ConvertKit to update, or to Podio to update it. And now there you go. You can see that the ConvertKit log has 2 items: subscriber created in Podio new leads form, and subscriber added to the email sequence Podio new lead. So there you pretty much have it. In the next video, we'll create the Zap for updating a lead. For when you change this value, if you choose to, it'll add it to a new lead or a new sequence and remove it from the old one. And then you'll see the log update also with the updated sequence that it was added to. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Thank you.